Former Trump lawyer and Mayor Rudy Giuliani is talking about dumps.
So here they're saying things like there's going to be a big dump, and there was a big dump. I put out the big dump to the New York Post, and then there was a big dump, and he censored it.
Big, massive dumps. They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
We're talking about dumps here. We're talking about dumps.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, where the water rushes out to sea because you could never handle it.
You could never handle the big, massive dumps. Okay, so now look, joking aside, what is this in relation to? Well, Hunter Biden's laptop. Yes, we're talking about the laptop. We're talking about the laptop, okay? I feel like on this conversation, we need to move along.
Bitch, move it along.
Okay, like, we're done. But no, we're not done. The right wing loves to talk about the laptop. So now this actually is about a conversation that happened on the Joe Rogan podcast, where Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg talked about why Meta, the company, decided to they didn't ban the content, but they did do a little bit of shadow banning, right? They limited the reach of the Hunter Biden story. So now Zuckerberg said that he was warned by the FBI, hey, make sure to be careful about spreading election misinformation, because you remember what happened last time. So now he decided, the executives at Meta decided, okay, we're going to, we think the story looks a little shady, and we're just going to, reduce the distribution of this particular story because we think it might be garbage. Now, before I go further, I don't care about Hunter Biden's laptop. I know the right, of course, is obsessed with it. My thought is on the whole thing, okay, look, if you can prove that Hunter Biden did something wrong or did something illegal, okay, well, sure, you should punish him. I have no problems with that. If that includes putting him in jail, okay, that's fine. If he did shady business dealings or illegal business dealings, yeah, of course. Nobody's really gonna object about that. This is not a complicated situation. That said, is there any evidence that that any of these business dealings had an impact on his father's decisions as president? No, we haven't seen that. And I think that really would be the key. And Republicans are saying, oh, look what Hunter did. Obviously, Joe Biden is a part of it. No. And look, if there are links that happen to be discovered by that, and again, there aren't any so far, well, okay, then do something about it. I'm not opposed to, enforcing the law. I think we should. And so if there are real issues, then yes, punish people. No president's supposed to be above the law. But here's what's interesting about that, okay? Now, on the right, the obsession with Hunter Biden isn't really about justice, isn't about the law. No, it's a distraction away from Donald Trump and his family doing their own shady deals to benefit himself and his family. That's what it's ultimately about. It is a distraction. It's a, hey, look over there. It is the all lives matter of political investigations. Okay? See, but it's them too. It's them too. They did it. Don't look over here. Look over there. It's a distraction. Look, and let me give you a couple of examples of the corruption of the Trump family. His daughter got access to China, to the Chinese president Xi, and was able to negotiate special deals for just her company. Not only that, but you had millions and millions of taxpayer dollars that Trump himself had directed federal money to his businesses, okay? According to the Washington Post, since 2017, Trump's company had charged taxpayers for hotel rooms, ballrooms, cottages, rental houses, golf carts, votive candles, floating candles, candelabras, there's a lot of candles in here, furniture moving, resort fees, decorative palm trees, strip steak, chocolate cake, breakfast buffets, $88 of bottles of wine, and $1,000 worth of liquor for White House aides. They also even charged for water. Yes, for water. Big water. Ocean water. Tremendous water.
where the water rushes out to sea because you could never handle it.
That's so much water. We're going to charge $3 for water. This was during the meeting with late Japanese President Shinzo Abe. Okay, nobody is a bigger thief than Donald Trump, and so when you're trying to sit there and talk about but Hunter Biden, he did crack in a bathtub. Don't care. Donald Trump Jr. probably did crack in the bathroom. Doesn't matter. Okay, look, that's your thing. If it doesn't have an impact on the presidency, I don't give a damn. But let's get to the issue at hand, right? And it is an important issue. Did the FBI tell Facebook what to publish, to remove this stuff? You're not allowed to share this stuff that might hurt Joe Biden in the election. Now, look, what Giuliani says is that Facebook had censored his dumps. Here he is.
That makes all this First Amendment stuff very different. One of the ways they get out of the First Amendment is they say these are private companies. But the minute the government's conspiring like that, it's the government violating First Amendment rights.
Okay, so if that's the case, well, that would be an issue, right? Yeah, you don't want the government going in and telling social media companies what they can and cannot have on their platforms. That would be a violation, but that's not what happened here. First off, Meta limited the posts via their own decision. Again, they didn't have to. They weren't required to. They could have completely disregarded the FBI's warning, but they didn't. And so they had the choice to be able to do that. That's part of the First Amendment. Now, the reason they did this is because they were cautious because of the overwhelming amount of disinformation that was shared during the previous election, information that they were called to account on. Okay. Now, Mark Zuckerberg said that while the FBI did not specifically name the New York Post article about Hunter Biden, he said it fit the pattern of what the FBI had warned about. Again, it's like talking about Hillary's emails or Hillary Clinton being indicted by the FBI. Again, turned out to be a nonsense story. And so, look, what the right wing does is they throw out a bunch of sensationalized stories in an attempt to influence the election. Okay, that's fine. It's, Oppo research, right? Not only Oppo's research, but they make up things, or they'll take things that, may have like a basis in reality, and then they'll editorialize on it, they'll sensationalize on it. Okay, fair enough, right? So now, in this case, the Biden laptop story is sensationalized, and there was a clear objective of targeting Joe Biden, as opposed to actually, again, seeking justice or ending corruption. And by the way, establishment press also does this a lot, puts out sensationalized stories that they've had to retract later, even about Donald Trump. So let's be fair and, call fair fair, right? That said, I would actually be also enraged if, Meta or these platforms decided to shadow ban those stories as well, because I think that's fair. That said, not the case that they're banning content, that the government is telling them to ban content or limit content. That's just, again, not the case here. In a statement, the FBI said that it routinely provides entities a potential threat information, but that it cannot ask or direct companies to take action on information received. They can just put out a general notice like, hey, be careful. We think that there's disinformation. And so whatever disinformation that there is, just be careful. That's all. Now, Meta responded to Twitter via Twitter saying this: the FBI shared general warnings about foreign interference, but said nothing specific about Hunter Biden. Looks like the people at Meta probably looked at that story and was like, oh, well, that seems like it's crap. And then limited the reach on the story. Now, what this makes me think of is The Boy Who Cried Wolf, right? Again, because there is an FBI investigation into Hunter Biden, and, obviously he did do illegal things and worked for Burisma or whatever, and got payoffs. He got paid a bunch of money that for whatever reason, and it looked like he was trying to get, that the company was trying to get access to Biden through his son. But again, there's no information, no evidence that that it actually worked and that he didn't make any policy decisions based on that. There's no direct evidence. But again, what the right wing did is that they came out with so many of these ridiculous, sensational stories that it is the effect of crying wolf. That if actually they do find an issue of real corruption, and certainly is possible, okay, and certainly is plausible, well, they've already discredited themselves by throwing out a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of bullshit. And so if there is a real story, it's going to get ignored by people who like, oh, look at the track record. They're putting out nonstop garbage. So this is the problem, again, with not just, I think, the right wing, but the sensationalism, I think, in a lot of our media today. And that includes establishment media, and yeah, even left-wing media like myself. And so we really do have to be careful, okay? But now there's one more thing, right? Again, which is the limiting of the reach or the shadow banning, all that, right? The algorithmic stuff. Again, I disagree with Meta doing that to these stories because, for one, it does lead to charges like this. I think that, you know, if there's disinformation, you debunk it. You debunk that disinformation. If you don't, if you do limit that reach, then it's going to, again, give conservatives ammo to cry, because they're really good at that, to cry victim, okay? Now, the other thing it does is that it shows that these companies do have power. They have power that I don't think that they should have. And so these platforms are gigantic, and they don't have to play by free speech, First Amendment rules, because they're not government, they are private companies. As much as Rudy Giuliani apparently wishes they weren't, but wait, that would be against the free market, wouldn't it? I'm sure it would. Now, to be fair, though, it looks like on this case, and I think in a lot of cases, Meta doing that didn't really stop the distribution, the spread of the Hunter Biden story or any other, you know, nonsense conspiracy theory put forward by the right wing. So let's be fair on that. They, as much as they like to paint themselves as victims, they really do have a gigantic megaphone when it comes to media and a huge chain of, you know, whether it becomes, you know, from like the forums on 4chan or some right-wing blog where it gets filtered all the way through the media bubble, Newsmax, and ends up, you know, being spread on Fox News, which is unfortunately the largest cable, you know, news outlet, the most watched in the country. So Facebook, you know, limiting the reach of the story, at the end of the day, didn't really have a whole lot of positives and a whole lot of negatives. So there it is. That's why generally these companies should avoid doing that.